Hello, Cinema Makeup School students, friends, and family. Mary Lou Mandel here with another industry interview. Now, I'm really excited to bring you a long distance interview all the way from London with the makeup designer behind big movies like Tomb Raider, Bohemian Rhapsody, and the upcoming Wonder Woman 1984. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, makeup designer Jan Sewell.
Hello, everyone.
This is our most long distance interview right now. You are in London?
I'm in London. I'm in North London. The weather is beautiful, which, you know, sometimes we say it not always is, but it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, sitting here and looking forward to talking to everybody.
Oh, I'm so glad that you were able to join us. You were connected to us through Donald Mowat. I'm so glad. Thank you, Donald, for making this connection so we can talk to Jan about her career. So let's get started talking about that. I'd love to know how all of these industry professionals got into makeup to begin with, because it's not always makeup in the beginning, but sometimes it is. It's like some other kind of art that got you in. So what got you into makeup and into this part of your career?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I originally wanted to be an interior designer, and I had got a place at the London College of Furniture. This was a few years ago, and they had actually held a place open for me for 2 years, and I just couldn't, at the time then you could apply for grants, and where I was applying just would not give me a grant, and I wasn't able to afford to finance myself, and so having had that art background, I was a bit despondent, but I was watching television one night, and I was watching a program called I, Claudius. Now you can try and look that up, it's a million years old. And I was watching all this aging. I was watching the characters progressively getting older using prosthetics, which I think now would probably seem, very outdated, but then I thought was amazing. And I waited to the end, and I saw that there was a makeup person that did that, and a name went up. And I thought, gosh, somebody does that for a living. And just by sheer chance, the next morning, I was at work, and a work friend said, why don't you just ring the BBC? And I said, well, can you just do that? And they said, yeah. So I rang, the switchboard picked up. I asked to talk to the makeup department. They put me through, which I thought, I know. You think, okay, that won't happen now. And I just said, do you do courses? And they went, yeah, we do. Send your name in. I'll give you an address to send it to. We've got a course in 3 months' time. We'll give you a call. I did that. I read up on what they sent me. I went off and did a hair course. And in 3 months' time, I got an interview and I joined the BBC. I mean, how amazing is that? And it was a 3-month course. And they taught you had 2 exams to pass, one after the first month, one after the third month. And then you went and worked at the BBC. And, sadly, that doesn't exist anymore. But the most fantastic training ground.
There's probably all these opportunities that are out there where you could just call somebody up and ask a question.
Yeah, and I think you shouldn't be frightened not to, because the worst they can do is not respond, and the second they can do, well, they would be polite, but exactly, I think you should always.
The fact that social media is so accessible and you can direct message someone is similar to that kind of thing, like calling up the BBC. If there's somebody that you admire, you kind of have a question for, you just send them a message, and the worst is they just don't respond, and then
exactly.
The best is you get an answer.
And also, I would say, and I have said this to trainees before, do look up who you're sending your message to, and look at their body of work, because I have had some people say to whom it may concern. And I think you've got to flatter somebody a little bit, but also you've got to know what they do, because, somebody might just do fashion makeup and that may not be what you want to do. So look at people's body of work, reference their body of work, and then ask if they're taking on trainees. Why not?
Why not? Shoot your shot. That's amazing. So you were training at the BBC and then started working with them. What took you to the next level?
Well, I stayed at the BBC for 15 years, which is quite a long time, but I was designing very quickly. And, you didn't really have control of your career when you were at the BBC. You were allocated programs. And for some reason, they allocated me into light entertainment. And at the time I thought, okay. But actually, it was the best thing, because I learned my trade there. And because we do hair and makeup, and prosthetics. On all these, shows that were quick changes and little sketches, I was able to try all these prosthetics, and some I succeeded, some I failed, and it was a fantastic training ground. If I'd been given the big, prestigious two-handers with the famous actors, I would only have learnt to powder somebody's nose. I started working with then French and Saunders, Dawn French, Jennifer Saunders. I then started doing Absolutely Fabulous. And of course, it was all of that that gave me the confidence to decide to go freelance.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you're with them, you're contracted with them, they allocate you, then you got the confidence because you had enough projects under your belt to be like, all right, I'm my own boss, let's get out and take on
absolutely.
the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, scary because, you're slightly institutionalized, you think that nobody's going to employ you. And actually, I still feel like that. Every time I finish a film, I think it's my last one. But then that's your freelance head. I just thought, got to do it. I've got to do it now. And I did. I've been so lucky. I've been offered so many things that are just fantastic. I've had so many lovely opportunities. One of the ones that really sticks in my mind is when I did Everest, because I didn't think I'd be strong enough to do it. I mean, it was just amazing. We flew to Kathmandu. We went up Everest. We went as far as just under base camp. We went right up to where they have all the monuments to the dead climbers. I mean, it was unbelievable. We flew in. And it's kind of what I'm trying to say is it was an experience. It wasn't just a project. It was an experience. We flew into Lochler, which is the highest, most dangerous air landing strip, I gather, in the world. It's quite scary. But it was just the whole project. Everything about it was mammoth, and it was just, I loved it. I loved it.
No matter what level you're at, you really can get amazing experiences.
Absolutely. And it's things like, when I remember again years ago doing a really little film in Morocco, and we had permission to go into the harem of the king of Morocco. Now, they weren't there, he and all his, harem were in another palace. But when would you ever get to see the harem, the room where the harem sit? I mean, it was, it's just amazing, isn't it?
Oh, that's so great. And I really value that kind of thing. So I hope all of our aspiring makeup artists get to appreciate experiences, not just the projects, but the experiences that they get sent on for any project. Because it could be a project that doesn't even make it, but you still had the experience.
Yes, you did. And it doesn't have to be in Morocco. It doesn't have to be, in Nepal. It can be, I don't know, a building around the corner of where you live that you would never have access, but you have, and you go in there and it's, unbelievable. I think we're very lucky.
Now I want to talk to you about a few of your projects that stood out to me. The first one I want to ask you about is Absolutely Fabulous.
I was so lucky. I did that for 15 years. It was just such fun. I was allocated it, or Jennifer asked me actually, because by that point I had, I'd been working with Jennifer with Dawn on their little sketch shows. And so she asked me to do it. I didn't do the pilot, because I was busy on something else, but I came in when they did the first series, and we just had the best time. The way they made it was that we would always do a couple of weeks filming, all out and about, that would cover all the 6 episodes, and then they would slot in, and then you would do studio, and you would have an audience, a live audience. And I always remember I would get scripts from her, and you would just get pages. And I would say, Jen, is there anything I should know about this? And she'd say, oh, yeah. In the scene before, there's a fire. And you go, oh, right, okay, so burnt makeup then. And she'd go, oh, yes, burnt makeup. And then the scene after, because there was one episode where Joanna Lumley burns down the kitchen. And I did this half makeup where I covered her in black soot, and then she put her face down. And then when she came up with the fag all bent, half of her face was white and half of her face was black. And that is the only time I ever put a wig on Joanna Lumley. All those massive hairdos, it's all her own hair.
Wow.
And the only reason I put the wig on was because I was frightened the black would not be able to get out. Her character, Jennifer told me, was based on Ivana Trump, and Jennifer's character was based on Marissa Berenson. Those were the sort of looky-likeys that she asked me to reproduce. Oh, but such fun.
What a fun story. And what an experience and lesson in listening to and anticipating the needs of your filmmakers that you're working with, because you're provided what you're provided, but you went out of your way to ask questions because you understood how this filmmaker worked. You communicated, which I think is such a lesson.
You know, the words are given to you and you read your script and you break it down in your head and you break it down in your continuity based around makeup. So you know somebody's walked in a door and you go, well, where have they come from? What's happened to them? You know, so all relevant questions, because it may not be on the page, you know, it may not be down on the page, but, you know, that's why you have production meetings. That's why you have access to your producers, directors, actors. And of course, you know, it's all a collaboration anyway. It's all a collaboration.
And you really have to do your homework to do your part to make sure that comes off when filming does happen. So let's talk now about Theory of Everything. That one had some prosthetics involved.
The prosthetic designer, Christian Mallet, was on, I asked to come and help me on that one. And he did a fabulous job. What was interesting about Theory of Everything is I had never worked with Eddie Redmayne before then. It was actually the costume designer, Stephen Noble, who had already got the job and recommended me, and I interviewed the director, James Marsh. And so it was my first experience of working with Eddie. So again, I didn't know how he liked to work. But the thing about that was I knew that there was a beginning to the film, which was, you know, Eddie looking like Stephen Hawking, and I knew we could get that really easy, floppy, fringed wig, you know, got it. And I knew what the end was going to look like, because the pictures of Stephen Hawking and you know how far he's gone. I knew I had to age Eddie up. I knew he had to be disabled. So I said to the producers and I said to Eddie, I want to get that last look. I want to do makeup tests and get the last look. And when you've okayed that you're happy that I've gone as far as I need to go and I haven't gone too far with the look, and it will be prosthetics because it's aging as well as all the thing that the disease did to Stephen Hawking. Once I've established that, then you've got your timeline. You know the beginning and you know the end, and then you can do your journey. So that's exactly what we did. So I got Eddie's face cast by Christian. I got his mouth cast by Chris Lyons at Fangs FX, makes all the teeth. I had his head shape taken and wigs made by Alex Rouse, who is a wig maker I've worked with for over 30 years, and she understands me. I started the process of how I would twist his face, and it was all an illusion. So as we tried to make his face look like it was twisting, I mean, I have to say Eddie helped a lot with this. He physically was doing things as well, which was unbelievable. But I had a piece made on the top of his head so that it looked like his head was that shape. And Chris started to make teeth that started to go in that direction. So they were longer there and shorter there to make it look like his jaw was dropping. So a lot of it was illusion. A lot of it was shading. As he started to age, I had the wigs made with wide partings so that I could start the parting high, and then as he got older and older, I made the parting lower and lower so it looked more like a comb over, and I had more grey hair hidden underneath. So it's that working out the stages. And then of course we started to add all these little prosthetics. As people get older, their ears still continue to grow, so I started to add little bits onto his ears that Christian had made for me. And then of course we eventually end up with the full face prosthetic, which again Christian and I tested twice. We had it slightly altered because Eddie wanted some of the pieces. They stopped him doing the shapes of the face he wanted, so we had to slightly alter the prosthetics. But you know, there was aging, there was the aging down there. And then there was he had 3 wigs, and then that was the last wig. So it's a whole process. I'm working very closely with Christian, with all my other suppliers, but also working very closely with people like the costume designer Stephen, my friend, and also JP Kelly, who was the production designer, because the other thing we did, because he had to look like he was shrinking, they started to make everything 40% bigger. So the chair, his wheelchair, got 40% bigger. So he looked like he was shrinking. The costumes started to get slightly bigger. I was twisting his face, so it was all an illusion. and it just looked like he was twisting and shrinking. And then, of course, the amazing Eddie Redmayne, just being the most fabulous actor, doing, you know, all the physicality with Alex Reynolds, his movement coach, helping him, studying, you know. I mean, it was an amazing experience.
I definitely have to go back and watch that again now, knowing that the clothing and the props and everything adjusted more than I even thought.
Yes, yeah, it did. 40% we went to, yeah.
Yeah, 40% is substantial. That's not your only movie you've worked with Eddie Redmayne on. You also did Danish Girl with him. So did you do the same kind of thing where you had the beginning look and the end look and then did the journey in between?
I think that's really good for the directors to see that. So Tom Hooper was directing The Danish Girl, and way earlier on, Working Title with the company that were producing it, we went up to Working Title's offices, and I had pulled loads of wigs, loads and loads of different colours. I knew Eddie's head shape, I had it. So I got his head shape, took it to Alex, went to Alex, and I just got a whole bag of wigs. And I got all the colours, and we tried to work out what was the best colour wig for Eddie. Now, Eddie, you know, his colouring is, you know, he's got his freckles and all that, and his colouring is quite warm. It's a little bit on the red side. I did try on a very dark wig on him, which also looked great. He looked great with dark hair. But the blondes didn't work. They were too wishy-washy. And I knew there was this red colour, which of course we ended up using, that lovely auburn. And I just knew it would go with his colouring. There were and are pictures of Einar, who becomes Lily. You still have to sort of be aware. Of course, it's period. So you know the hair has to have, you know, that period cut and look. But we did a test. We tried all the different colours on, and Tom just took photographs. That's all, just took photographs. And then we looked at it all, and we all did agree that the red wig was the one, although the dark wig was a close second. To make Eddie up, we looked very carefully at his face on camera. And he most definitely has two sides to his face. He has a slightly softer side, and then he has a slightly more masculine side. So obviously we found this softer side. And we mainly shot from that side because that was definitely his most feminine side. Way before all this contouring became such a big thing, everybody going on about contouring, that's exactly what I did. I contoured his face. So I took back the hard jawline, I knocked that back. I pulled his cheekbones up by highlighting. I mean, it was all subtle highlighting. I really slimmed his nose down to make it a bit softer and really tried to get a little point on the end. We looked at whether I put a lot of makeup on to cover his freckles or whether I just put it on really lightly. And we all thought he looked lovely with his freckles coming through, even though Einar, you know, even though Lily actually wasn't freckly. But then, you know, it's Eddie. So actually, his makeup's quite fine.
I love freckles, and I love when people let their freckles shine through on their makeup because it's so unique, and it's not really something you can recreate. Well, maybe you could.
Just, it's lovely, isn't it? I mean, it's a texture. Again, it's another texture that you either decide you like and you use, and we did. Otherwise, I'd be going in covering him up the whole time, and that's not what it's about.
Well, speaking of texture, you posted recently on your Instagram some texture makeup that you did on Tomb Raider, which I think is beautiful. Talk to me about that project.
Yes, well, you know, again, you know, of course, Alicia was in The Danish Girl, and it was Alicia who requested me to go onto Tomb Raider, so I can only thank her. And that was an amazing experience. I mean, we shot down in Cape Town for 5 months, and I went down on my own you know, I wasn't allowed to bring a team with me. I had to pick up a team locally. The thing about Alicia's makeup on that, you know, we know it's based on the game. We know it's all running and, you know, lots of physicality. She'd already at that point had this amazing body, you know, that she had been working on. I mean, she's an ex-ballerina. I mean, she knows how to work hard and be dedicated. And every morning she'd be in, you know, the trailer that had been set up with the gym, which Magnus, who trained her, set all up for her. And then she would come into me afterwards. So I would do a beauty makeup on her first. So I'd wrap her hair away. She wore a wig all the way through that, even though I used her own hairline at the front and her own hairline at the back. She wanted much longer hair than she had. So, you know, I had what we call a 3/4 wig made. With her character, it was just adding layers and layers and layers and layers. So I did a beauty makeup to start with. but just with like waterproof mascara. I went in, eye definition, shaped her eyebrows, put a nice soft base on, and then on top of that, I started to do the breakdown. And what was brilliant about that is there was a South African makeup assistant called Marika who helped me, and we tag teamed. It's the first time that I had an assistant help me, and we had to do it fast. That was the reason she was there, because Alicia had such long days with all the training in the beginning, then all the shooting, and then getting back, keeping to a very strict diet regime. Our makeup had to be as short as possible. So we tag teamed, and it was fantastic. So as I was wrapping Alicia's hair, Marika was handing me pins. So it's quick, 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 quick. And then the wig would go on, and again, pins, 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 then we tie it up into a ponytail. I would then go and do the beauty makeup while Marika was putting all the makeup on her back and, covering her in sunblock because it was super hot. So we had our 100 sunblock. Then Marika was doing all the back makeup while I was doing all the beauty makeup. And then I started to do all the breakdown on the face. Marika started to do all the breakdown on the hands. Then we had transfers, these fantastic transfers from David Stoneman, who makes all the wonderful bloods and dirts that, again, I used on it, and he makes the transfers. And we started to put all the transfers we needed on her for her wounds. And of course, you would have to know your continuity and what you were shooting each day to know which wounds to put on, because of course they all happen in a sequence. But it was just brilliant, and just between us, it was fluid, and it was the most wonderful experience with an assistant that I've had. And we got her ready like 45 minutes, full body, wig, face, and then we would do the sweat spray when she was on set.
And when a team is like synergistically like on the same level, everyone knows what they need to do, they get things done. It's magic.
Oh, it was, and it worked really well, and she was brilliant. I was so sad she couldn't come and live here, but I have lots of other great assistants as well. But that was somebody I didn't know, and she was. I just thought she was fabulous, and she got it, and she knew it was my makeup, she knew it's my design, and she watched what I did. It's the other thing, to you guys out there as a trainee. Watch what the artist does, watch how they like to lay their places out, their brushes, where they put all their products, how they grab them, it's just, that's how you learn. You don't have to do it yourself, but that's how you learn. And that's also why it's important to work with lots of different designers, because then you don't learn bad habits and you can, cherry pick the good ones.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for all of our students that are out there. When you end up assisting an artist, pay attention, listen, do your job, be good at your job, but use it as a place to absorb what to do in these situations. So on that note, before we move on to the next project, what advice do you have for someone to be an assistant?
I feel that these amazing schools, they offer all these different skill levels and get them to try each one, take your exams in it, and I think, practice-wise, I think that's brilliant. But when you come out of that school, just consider yourself not a trained makeup artist, but a trained trainee. You are going to be the best trainee. And that means that you take on board all the things that have been taught to you. And good schools will give you a wonderful cross-the-board, experiences in different things that are required. And then come out and be the best trainee. You will then become the best artist. You will then become the best designer. I mean, it's a process, it's a process. You can't go running in at the top. You have to come in and just, as we said before, it's like it's being observant, it's being a team player is beyond important. I mean, I get really sad. I see so many posts now that has things, the word me seems to be very prevalent at the moment. I think, you should work as a team, because that's what all the departments do, that they all work towards making an end product. And all the departments work together to make that end product. And that's how it should be in a makeup team. It's a team. And, you can get some assistants that are brilliant, utterly brilliant, and, they just have it. But if they do a fabulous makeup and they get it on camera and they just stand there, well, their friend next door is struggling a little bit. If they don't go and help that person, I won't see that fabulous makeup. I will see that they haven't helped that person. And I think it's really important to be seen as a team player. If that person's just not brilliant at putting a wig on, hasn't quite understood, laying on beards, get in there, show them, help them. And then together you will make the designer look good.
You just want to help out whoever you can. Just be a good person, because you will work with them again. You will run into them again. The industry
100%.
is big, but it's not that big.
Exactly, 100%. You've got to help each other and they'll help you. You may not be brilliant at something,
Let's talk about one of your most recent projects, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Rami Malek is the most amazing man. He is, he's just, and we are great friends to this day. He is just sensitive and aware and just lovely and 100% a team player. He's just such a lovely man.
I was very happy to see him as Freddie Mercury. So tell me about that project. How is it recreating characters that already exist, which you've done in some of your other movies, but this is now an entire band?
Well, isn't that interesting? Because the reason I got offered it, because I know I didn't have to go for it, I actually got asked to do it, was because the same producer that was producing Tomb Raider, Graham King, was also producing Bohemian Rhapsody. And I didn't find out until much, much later on that because Rami knew he had a transformation to do, he had actually asked Graham to get everybody from Theory of Everything. And I didn't find that out until way, or at least he intimated that he would be interested to. So of course, Graham and I were working with each other at the time. So, I mean, how brilliant to be given that project on a plate. You know what I mean? I didn't have to read for it. I didn't have to, they just said, we want you to do it. What was brilliant about that is there was a whole load of work that had already been done. The production designer was on board. DOP was on board. Quite often makeup, we come in after costume, so on all projects you'll find that there's loads of referencing for you to already look at, plus the fact that directors, producers have already pulled up what they want to do. And then I met Rami for the first time in London. He flew in, and it was literally just for myself and Julian Day, the costume designer, to take measurements. So I obviously had his mouth cast. I had his head shape taken. I approached Mark Coulier, who's a prosthetic designer, to help me with this one, because if you look at Rami's face, it's not like Freddie Mercury's face. I mean, the one thing that probably is he's got a strong jaw, which Freddie Mercury had as well. But the top half of his face isn't the same. He's got very large eyes. His nose was a different shape to Freddie's. And when he turned up, he was in the middle of shooting Mr. Robot, and he had his hair cut right up to here. So that didn't look like Freddie's hair at all. So I knew I had to get a whole bunch of wigs for him. So we met, and I thought he was lovely. I thought, I didn't know him then, but he was very, he kept saying to me, what do you think, Jan? What do you think, Jan? I thought, great, this man is collaborative. He's going to let me do anything, which is what I want. Because that doesn't always happen. They're not all, not everybody wants that. And he wanted everything. He wanted everything. He said, whatever it takes. I got his face cast by Mark Coulier, and we also got him scanned. And we just went through the whole process, we talked about the nose, we talked about putting cheek pieces on. And my way that I always approach makeup is little is more. What's the least I can do to achieve the most? Because you can cover people in prosthetics, but is that necessary? We did lots of tests with the nose. We did a couple of tests. We had tests where the end of the nose was much longer, which is exactly what Freddie had. But on Rami, it didn't work. It just didn't work. So we went back, and I did the shading afterwards. What was brilliant about that is we knew we could get him looking like Freddie in the later look, because, I mean, the moustache is iconic, isn't it? Short hair moustache. We got the nose shape right. The teeth were another thing, of course. They took like 20 pairs to find out what didn't look too big, although I'm sure people would say that I still did go too far. But I can assure you, they were nowhere near the size of Freddie's real teeth. Nowhere near. Because, in fact, we did that. Chris Lyons, again, helped me with that. I said to him, Chris, make me a set of teeth that you look at pictures of Freddie, scale it all, make me a pair of teeth that I can put in Rami that will be exactly the right size that Freddie had. Well, they were huge. They were humongous. You couldn't use them. So, of course, we scaled right back. And also, Freddie's teeth were very crooked. And I didn't want to make Rami look ugly. You know, that's so I had them all straightened up and softened quite a lot. But we kept the integrity of the shape, and we kept as much as we dare with the size.
Yeah, I can't imagine the choices that you have to make there, because there's already an existing fan base that knows what he looks like. There's so many photos out there. There's so much footage, but you are making a movie and you want to
Yes.
make the actor look good, and it is still fantasy, even though it's historically based. So you have to make the choices along with the rest of your team on what are you going to stay on the nose with and what are you going to make adjustments with. So I think you guys did a fabulous job.
Thank you. And as we know, you know, it's about what the producers want. You know, Rami was so all over it. He'd already done like a year's work on it with, you know, movement coach, which was Polly Bennett, this, you know, who was brilliant. You know, he'd already done so much work that he was all over it. And, you know, he trusted me and I trusted him. So, you know, what better could it be?
Oh, what a delightful collaboration it sounds like all of that was. Your next big upcoming project that you've already completed is Wonder Woman 1984. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, I'd love to, but I don't think I can. But I can say, looking forward to seeing it as much as anybody, I can promise you. And when I saw the trailer, I thought, oh my God, that's actually quite good, isn't it? It was huge. It was a fantastic experience. You know, working with Patty Jenkins, I just think she's an amazing director. She's all over it. And the fun of doing 1980s. And I worked with a massive team, and I can only thank all of them for their input.
You are a makeup designer. Tell us a little bit about what that is, because it might be different in American filmmaking terminology. You've got the makeup designer, head of department, department head. These are all the same?
I mean, we say makeup designer here. We do both hair and makeup. And I like that. I prefer that because I feel you get a whole look. When you split it, hair and makeup, I think that there are fantastic collaborations and teams that do a fantastic job. But what if you happen to work with somebody who you don't think is quite matching what you're trying to do? Again, it's a bit like tag teaming. If you've got a wonderful, you know, another designer working with you, then that's great, and you're like-minded. But I love the fact that I would have the overall look to design, and then I go out to my suppliers and I get people like Mark to come in, and of course he would design the prosthetics, but it would be based around what I'm also doing. I would then maybe change what I'm doing because of what he needs to do. So I think when you talk about somebody designing the whole film, I like the fact that I am able to do it all, and I have designed prosthetics and then just ask people to make them for me. I mean, I think department head is exactly the same in America. I think it's the same deal. They still go off and they design either the makeup or the hair or the prosthetics. But what we all do is we come from a base of having read the script, having had conversations way early on before you put your team together with the you know, the producers, the director, the actors, other department heads. Again, talking about collaboration, you know, because I will always go, what's your color base? What's the color of this film? If I'm talking to a production designer, you know, what colors do I need to avoid? What colors should I, you know, is better to use? And you'll have that conversation with your costume designer. So I think what's lovely about being a designer is you're looking at the big picture. You're not just looking at one actor. You're looking at how does that actor fit in? If I give that actor that hairstyle, that makeup, I have to make sure that nobody else has got that look as well. They've got red hair. I can't have another actor with a similar looking, you know, so it's about how you design it, which I find fascinating. I mean, the amount of times, you know, I'm laying on a floor with hanks of hair, showing a director saying, well, do you like that color or do you like that? Do you like that texture or that? And again, knowing how you're going to design a wig will be my conversations with the wig maker when she makes the base of the wig. And I'll say, you can't put any seams there because I'm going to cut that hair really short. So all the seams have to be elsewhere. So it's already working ahead, knowing what you're going to do, and then incorporating that into your design.
Yeah, I love the terminology of designer.
They're doing the same job. They call themselves department head, but they're doing what I do, you know. So I love the term designer because I feel that is, I mean, we are creatives, we are the creative. department, one of the creative department. It's certainly what a costume designer does. It's certainly what a production designer does. And I think it's unfair not to have makeup designer or hair designer or prosthetic designer, because that's what we're doing. Yeah.
I love that. So what do you do to stay organized and make sure your team is all on the same page?
I always break down the script myself. I always break down all the continuity. I know a lot of designers don't do that, but that's more about me being in control and also actually getting the script in my head. So I actually break down each scene. I put each lead actor in. I do their changes based, because, as you know, and I'm sure other designers have said this to you, you don't start day one, scene one, you're all over the place, because it's all usually based on location availability, or artist availability seems to be more of it now. So you have to already know where your makeup changes are before you start shooting. Also, on bigger films, I have favourite supervisors. I work with crowd supervisors. I've got a couple of crowd supervisors who I think are brilliant, and they help me break down the budget, because that's another thing. It's the money. You can do wonderful things, but you've got to have the money to do it. So you'll be given a budget, or on a bigger films they ask you to budget it, and then they'll ask you to half it usually, and then they give you another half back. But there's always this game about how much you can spend. I've got a couple of brilliant crowd supervisors, and we will budget the movie. So we have to look long term, how many assistants you need in these big scenes, and what's the turnaround, and so that's another thing that designers have to do.
Yes, it's a big job, but you guys do it so well. And I hope that a lot of our students and aspiring makeup artists get a lot out of what you've shared with us today. Before we go, I want to ask you what you feel like our aspiring makeup artists can be doing now that everything's kind of stopped, and where do you feel the industry is going to go next?
Well, I know people are concerned, and I know people are worried, and I also know people are saying things like the day of big crowds are gone, because of course that's the most fantastic place for a trainee, is in the crowd room, a place to start your career. So I do think it will be different, but this industry and we as industry people have always adapted. I can remember the hoo-ha when we went from film to digital, and everybody thought it was going to be a nightmare, but we did it. We did it, and now we're all comfortable with that as well. It is going to be different, 100%. It may take quite a while for projects to get going. I definitely think that all of the trainees should get their hygiene certificates up to date. You can go online. It take you an hour to do the Barbicide course. You can do the normal one, and you can also do the extra COVID one. It's all free, so you can do that. There's lots of stuff in the press. I think there's lots of scary stuff in the press. I think you need to wait. Certainly over here in London, last week they got in, all the unions got together and put a document together to send to the British Film Council, the BFC, and they're now looking at how they're going to put something together. From a trainee point of view, I might need more, because now that they're expecting us to be so high, it's not a bad thing to be hygienic, but more so, and all the disinfecting and the cleaning, instead of maybe one trainee in the bus, I might need 2 or 3. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have less people, but who knows, but I'm definitely staying positive.
Good. And I love what you said there, that we've adjusted before. The industry changes all of the time. This is here, it's the reality. We will adjust. We will be fine. Things will go on, because they're not going to stop making entertainment.
Well, I don't think so, is it? I mean, look at everybody, Netflix, whatever it is, they need content. And they're desperate to get new stuff. So, people are lining up. We just don't know how we're going to do it yet. That's all.
Really great advice to get more training and be ready for when things do come back. Is there anything else you want to say to the students?
Support each other, help each other. And also, I'm part of a company called Makeup Armory. We sell makeup and are very aware of how expensive it is for trainees now. So, that there are ways that you can get smaller sizes. And I would say in the old days, share products, but I'm not saying that now, because I think that's not going to happen for a while. Be positive and help each other. Be a team player.
Be a team, because even if you are up for the same kind of job, you don't know who's going to be at what position later in your career. So just be a good person. each other out. Well, thank you so much for that, Jan. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you follow her on Instagram. You can check out her credits on her IMDb. I will make sure to give you guys the links. If you guys are enjoying these industry interviews, please let us know, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.